Hey, thank you very much. As you said, I've been beekeeping since 2006, and I went about a year and a half on my own before I finally admitted to myself, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. So that's how I ended up here, because fortunately this club has a reputation of being a teaching club. So the first thing that happened, they assigned me a mentor who came out and looked at my hives and says, everything looks good, keep doing what you're doing. So, but anyway, I finally got all my questions answered that I couldn't answer. Anyway, in our bee shows, we used the Welch method of judging shows, and that started in Wales, and we have the Georgia Beekeeping Institute, which we don't have anymore because that was at Young Centers. But we got a slightly different patch now. But basically, those classes are taught at GBA now. And we have the Honey Show Training Council, which basically makes sure that all the judges and all the shows are done by the same set of rules and same standards. Because we judge to a standard. And we get past that. Okay, this is Michael Young. He's from Northern Ireland, and he's the one who brought the standard to the States. And yeah, the beekeepers in England are not happy with him because he brought that standard here. It started at UGA, then we started teaching at University of Florida, and since then it is, we've got classes and Welch honey judges in about half the states, and it is growing. I don't know how many people we've got taking the class this year, but we usually end up with about 40 people in the class. Oh, I'll get the hang of this here in a minute. Okay, this is a shot from the national show from last year, and that doesn't even start to do it justice. But you see, some laser in it?
It does have a pointer.
It don't like me. Which button you pushing? Oh, that down there. Oh, the unmarked one. I can't see. Okay. Go back.
Do I need to be your pointer person?
And I'll do it this way. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, that doesn't even start to do it. This is the extracted honey, and this is, you don't even see there's more down here, and there's more back over here. It's not even in the frame. But that was extracted honey. This next row was your creamed honey, your cut comb honey, your full frames. Then we got into candles and beeswax. And there was 2 long rows there. There was 72 categories, and we had almost 1,200 entries. So it was it's a larger. That's the national show. It's in Louisville, Kentucky, in January. Okay. The easiest category to enter is black jar. All you need is about 2 ounces of honey. We supply the black jar. You pour it in the jar, you put your label on it, and you hand it to them. That's all the prep it takes. I mean, that is the easiest category to enter. Everybody should enter a black jar. Now, at GBA, whoever wins black jar gets the bragging rights of best tasting honey in Georgia. I won last year. The one category I never expected to win.
Isn't that
But
you judging?
What's that? No, that was from the national show. Unfortunately, I did not judge at GBA show last year. I had some scheduling conflicts, and I was able to make it to the show, but I was not a judge. There we go. Okay, this is basically lifted out of the rules for what we look for extracted honey. And that's what you saw in all those jars on that back wall in one of those previous photos. And basically what it is light, medium, or amber, and dark. And you enter 3 identical jars of honey. And I think it's the last page in the rules that sits there and tells you what type of jar to use. It's what we call a queen line jar. Highly recommend you use a glass jar and use gold lids. Because if you're using the white ones, they got real cheap on the paint when they paint those things. They have thin spots in them. And judge will count off for that. So one of the things that I recommend, like I said, use the gold lids, and that basically will alleviate a place where you get hit for inconsistency in your entry. But what we look for is we look for consistency between the 3 entries. We look for the cleanliness of the jar. That jar should be absolutely spotless. No fingerprints, no smudges, no sticky honey down the side of it. And I don't even think about some of the things I've seen at shows. But we look at the outside of the jar, see how, make sure it's clean. We even look at the bottom of the jar. Then we look at, we'll screw the lid off. We'll smell the aroma of the honey. We're looking for anything that shouldn't be there. BGO, smoke, Dawn dishwashing detergent, anything that shouldn't be there. Windex, I mean, those are things that I have smelled in honey. The next thing we look at is the inside of the lid. It should be spotless. The airspace at the top of the jar, the rim around there, that should be clean. There shouldn't be any honey in it. We look at the surface of the honey, and it should not be any foam, dust, any foreign debris. And we'll shine a light through it. We're looking for anything floating in the honey that shouldn't be there. Beeswax, bee legs, there shouldn't be anything there. If we see pollen, that should be there. So that's one of the things that we look for. The fill level on a jar. When I was talking about that airspace, this area right in here, that's what should be clean. But the fill level, that ring right there, that bottom ring on the jar is the fill line. And that's what it should look at. It's over, should be under. One of the things I'll do is I'll shine a flashlight from the back and see if I can see light coming underneath that ring. And I'm happy to tell you how we judge it. I want you to have a better entry. I want you to make it tough on us to decide who gets first, second, and third place. And we judge, like I said, we judge to a standard. Like I said, we use the light, we shine it through there. We're looking for what should be there and what shouldn't be there. And it's one of those things that when you start shining the light through it and all, that's when all the defects come out. I got another picture here coming up. That one showed up at the national show last year. And what they did is they didn't decide the jar wasn't full enough, so they added some honey to it. The only thing is they used a different honey. See where it settled? they set that in front of me to judge, and I looked at it and I said, okay, we've got a serious problem here. And I think every honey judge there took a picture of that jar. I know it's going to show up on a lot of PowerPoints. But yeah, use the same honey. Actually, what I do is I overfill the jar a little bit. And then I take a syringe and I pull out some honey until I get it down to that fill line. That way I'm not adding honey to it. If you go and add honey to it, you're going to put bubbles in there. And what I recommend doing is getting your jars filled and everything several days ahead of time to allow things like bubbles to come to the top and go ahead and pop and get out of there. And that way you're not rushing through this stuff at the last minute like I was last year, which wasn't good because I got 2 second places and I should have gotten first. But I didn't have time to do it properly, but I was bound and determined I was going to enter that show. And like I said, we use a bright light to shine through there. And like I said, debris, bubbles, foam. We look for those things. And when Keith Fielder was here talking here a couple of months back, he was talking about all the things that happens when you're getting your entries together. And the biggest thing we find contaminated in a jar is pet hair. And so basically, make sure your work area is clean, that your pets are not in the vicinity, and you can avoid that. And that is Nicholas. He's the guy who got me into this. He was also the youngest, back then, he was the youngest person to ever get licensed as a honey judge, the age of 16. And they argued that he shouldn't get his license because he couldn't judge mead because he wasn't 21. But anyway, I saw the first honey show here. I talked to Nicholas, how did I get into this? He told me what I needed to do. And I worked as a judge's assistant for several years. Then I took the exam. Well, took the class, then took the exam. And since then, I've had a good time judging honey shows, and I get to go to lots of neat places and do shows. Okay, the comment card. This is the card we're going to start using this year. And what we do is we check things off on the card, and then we put comments on the back. And we'll sit there and we will tell you, if we gave you a no in one of these categories, we'll tell you why we gave you that no. And we'll even sit there, some judge will even make suggestions on how you can solve that problem. We want you to have good entries. We want you to have better entries. And a lot of these shows, like GVA, first place will net you $100. Second place will get you $50. So, yeah, the first 3 places, there's actually a cash prize that goes with it. There's a lady I know out of Tri-State Club who went down to Perry at the state fair and entered there, and she entered every category she could think of, and she walked out of there with $2,400 in prize money. So yeah, there's money to be made at this. What we do is we look at the exterior of the jar. If you get a jar and it's got a blemish in it, like a crease or something like that, don't use that jar. It's hard to find jars that don't have bubbles in the glass because all this stuff is made with recycled glass now, and they all come out of Mexico. But get a case of jars, there's 12 in a case, and pick out your best ones. I always make 4 entries. That way, if I have a problem with one of them, I've got a backup I can stick in there, because I always do 4. And, we look at the exterior of the jar, the lid, they should be unblemished, like I was telling you, ones with a white paint. That's one thing that you don't, that's why I don't recommend using the white lids, because I see thin spots in them every year going through, just because they've just gotten real cheap with painting them. And so if you use the gold lids, you don't have that problem. And the cost of the lid is the same, because they sell the jars and the lids separately. Like I said, we look at the exterior of the jar and the lid. We look at the contents. They should be clean and clear. There should be no, the honey should not be crystallized. There shouldn't be anything floating in it. Usually if there's haziness in there, it's usually caused by the honey starting to crystallize. So pick your best honey, and like I said, take a flashlight, shine it around the top of that jar, look at the sides, and we'll back up a couple of slides here, and right here. This area of the jar right here, that shoulder, is the area where I see smudges and it not being clean. That is the area that I see that. I see it more in that area than any other place in the jar. Also, in these little grooves here, I will see where those aren't clean. You can sit there and run your finger across it, and you can sit there and see it smudge. So, like I said, those are things to look for. Is that I want you to have a good entry, and I'll be happy to tell you exactly how we judge them, so you know what we're looking for. Let's see. We look at the underside of the lid. We look at the airspace, which I pointed out earlier. The fill level on the jar.
So Rodney, one thing you taught me anyway is I bring 3 brand new lids.
Yep.
So when you come in, get your jars all ready to go, you take the lid that's on there off, you put the new lid on that's totally clean.
That's what I was actually going to ask is,
Yeah.
you're traveling.
Right.
Yeah, travel. I have, that's right. Thank you for saying it.
Yeah.
Because I have travel lids and I have show lids.
Right.
And when I get there, when I'm getting ready, sit there, shine my flashlight around the jar and all, make sure there's no smudges or anything. And don't use Windex. That ammonia will go through that seal and we will smell it. But anyway, wipe your jars down with a lint-free cloth just before you hand them off to the show secretary. But check them, shine a flashlight around, look for anything on there, and that way, hopefully you will catch anything like that. Like I said, I use an LED flashlight. I will sit there and look a jar over really well, because what we do now when we get them in a show, the show secretary will accept your entry. One of the stewards will take it back to the show area where it will be judged, and as soon as they bring it in there, we sit it down in front of usually a senior judge. They will look it over. If they see any problem at all with that jar, they will pass it off to another judge, who will sit there and fully judge that entry, write the comment cards and everything, and we're done with that entry. And what will happen is on the day of the show, any of them that did not have any defect whatsoever will be judged the day of the show by a senior judge. And by doing that, we can get through a show quicker, because we've only got from like noon until 5 5 hours to judge that entire show. At the National, it takes us 2 days to judge it, because there's that many entries. Yes, sir.
Those little safety seals that are on there, those,
That'll disqualify you. What you do is take that seal out of the lid first, if you're using that type of lid. Usually what we use is lids without safety seals. Yeah, but if that safety seal goes down on the mouth of that jar, it's gonna leave that glue all the way around there. And that'll definitely knock you out of the first place. So what I've done is where I've used that type of lid, I just go in there and pull that safety seal out before, and that way I don't have to worry about that. The jar that we had up there before, like you see, there's type lids we normally use, the metal ones, or the plastic ones. But like your flip top lids and stuff like that, I don't recommend using those. Okay, like I said, we look at the surface of the honey to make sure it's clear of debris, foam, bubbles, and then we make sure, like I said, when we sit there, as soon as we open it up, we smell the aroma of the honey, and we're looking, like I said, we're looking for anything that shouldn't be there. And I've smelled some honeys that really smell bad, but there was nothing there that shouldn't have been there. We had an entry last year at the National Show that was goldenrod. Yeah, that honey does not smell good. And I immediately recognized it, and I sat there and said, okay, who knows what goldenrod honey smells like? So everybody's coming by and smelling that honey. So a lot of times we find something unusual in a show, we'll use it as a teaching moment for the other judges. Because a lot of times it's something they don't run into very often. Like the jar had 2 different honeys in it and then settled. That was a good one. Okay, we will check the viscosity of honey. We would use a refractometer and measure the moisture content. If you don't have one, you need to get one. These are not expensive, especially if you get one from me. Because I got 2 of them tonight that I'm selling for $10 a piece. Money goes to the club.
That's a great price.
So,
I bought mine for $25, so that's a great price.
yeah, it's $10. I mean, you can find them online for $25. I brought 2 of them in from the Chinese manufacturer to see what the quality was on them. They're calibrated. They held calibration when I banged them around a little bit. So I said, okay, these are good. So I might order them and start selling them next year. But those are $10 a piece, and that's cheaper than you're gonna get them anywhere else. And I'm not making any money. I think I've got $8.95 in each of those. So, and the money, the whole thing goes to the club. Okay, so we check the moisture content, and like I said, we sit there and we're looking for uniformity between the 3 jars. So that's the last category here that we would check off. Then we would flip the card over and we would start writing comments. We would start making comments on anything that we checked a no on, or anything else we found on the entry that we noted. Good, bad, indifferent. I always try to end my entries on a positive note. I don't want you to get discouraged. I want you to fix the problems, and I want to see you again next year. That's why we do the comments, because we want you to do a better entry next year, and we like giving out prizes. Okay, black jar. Like I said, that is the easiest one to do. Yes, sir.
Is there a novice class for,
There is a novice class.
is it graded or judged the same way?
It's
as-
judged exactly the same way.
But you only have to have one jar?
You'll have to read the rules. I haven't read, I've got to print out a copy of the rules and read them basically from front to back. So, because I don't know what I'll be judging at this show. I won't know until I get there. They'll sit there and they'll say, okay, we want you to judge candles and wax cakes, and when you get done with that, come back and we'll give you something else to do. So, at the national show, I judged lots of the entries that went into the extracted honey. And then I did creamed honey, cut comb honey, section comb honey, and whole frames of honey. So I basically started at one end of that long row of tables and worked my way up to the other end. And so that took me quite a while. Anyway, black jar, the easiest category to win. There's only one prize given to first place in black jar. There's no second, third, or fourth, or anything like that. And like I said, you get bragging rights of best tasting honey in Georgia. And like I said, last year I won black jar, which totally, completely surprised me, because the honey that I was going to enter in black jar, when I got ready to, I sit there and got my jar, opened it up, reached down in my box to get the jar of honey that I had for black jar, and it wasn't there. And it's like, oh geez, it's sitting on the kitchen counter at home. So what it is, I took one of my backup jars, screwed the lid off, poured it in, put the lid on it, handed it to the show steward, and off it went. And like I said, that is the absolute last category I expected to win. I don't know how many black jar entries we had last year, but it was a bunch of them. And the fact that mine got picked totally, completely surprised me. So I get bragging rights for a year. Of course, there's a guy who won it in 1995 who still puts it in his ad in the Market Bulletin. And he'll sit there and say, judge best tasting honey in Georgia. And like I said, that was back in 95 when he won that. He still puts it in his ad.
So the GBA, the black jar is so popular, we're trying this year, worked it out with Rudd's, is there's going to be a black jar speed line for check-in. Or there was only one or two lines, and it didn't matter if you had one entry, 12 entries for just black jar, so it kind of got bottlenecked. So this year, hoping to streamline it, so there's going to be a 1 to 3 entries, greater than 3 entries, and just a black jar entry to streamline the check-in process.
Yeah, because black jars, it's the easiest one to do. And like I said, easiest to enter and hardest to win. But if you're going to be at GBA or next month with our honey show, do a black jar entry. For our show, all I ask is it be in a opaque jar, because the rules basically are set up to where I cannot see the color of the honey. It's done strictly on taste alone. And Michael Young sat there several years at Young Harris, sit there and pulled all of the honey judges aside and sit there and basically he went through and picked out the one he would pick for a black jar, and basically what he sat there and taught us what to look for. We're looking for a profile. And as he says, it should light up all the sections of your tongue. It should have a very good finish. It shouldn't be real nice and sweet and all of a sudden just go away. It should linger. So, but like I said, enter. It's the easiest one to enter, and it doesn't cost you anything to enter the honey show. Okay, candles and wax. There's a bunch of categories for candles. There's floating candles, there's dipped candles, there's molded candles, there's carved candles. Pretty much any kind of candle you can think of. Like I said, you read the rules. There was some absolute, at the national show, there was some absolutely beautiful dipped candles. And it sits there and says the candle should be 8 inches long. They were 7 inches long. It said the wick should be cut to ½ an inch. The wick, I think it was about 1/8 of an inch. So basically it was, we marked that off. It didn't place. I think I gave them a commendable, because we got six categories, first, second, third. Very highly commendable, and commendable.
And Rodney, if there's only 2 entries for the same class, is there always a first place?
No. If it does not meet the judging standard for a first place, it does not get a first place. The 2 categories I got second place in last year did not have a first place. And remember I told you about the very hard area to clean around the top of the jar there? That's what got me. So if I had paid better attention to that, I would have gotten 2 first places. But instead I got 2 second places because they did not have an entry that they considered to be first place, worthy of a first place. There's another category where I got a 3rd place and there was no first and second in that category. So, yeah. Like I said, read the rules, check the length, weight. Candles, some things that like bars and blocks should weigh a certain amount. Yes, ma'am.
Where do you get the rules and regulations from?
It'll be on the GBA website.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, like the little 1 ounce bars, we'll throw them on a scale. And I've got my judging kit with me tonight so you can see what we've got in there. And one of the things I do use is a scale. And in here somewhere, I've got a calibration weight. So I'll sit there, turn it on, sit it down, put that weight on there, and it better, that 200 gram weight I put on there, it better give me 200 plus or minus 1. And that scale, I have 4 of those. My wife's got 2 of them in the kitchen now because they fell outside that plus or minus 1. That one was dead on, so that's the one I use. The other one I've got, it basically gives me a plus 1. So if I end up using that one on a show, that gives you 1 gram of advantage. Because anyway, like I said, the rules will have the specifications for that class entry. Read them carefully and make sure that you've met all the requirements in that class. Because the judges are going to have those rules there with them when they're judging. And one of the things they do for us is when we go up to the table with the entries on it, there will be, the comment cards will be there for us, and a copy of the rules for that category. And I will read through them again before I start judging. And I will usually have a steward with me to help me with that. I usually have them write comments. Because we'll go through, we'll check all those things off on the front, then we'll flip it over and we'll start writing comments on it. And like I said, I always try to end with something positive because I don't want to discourage you. I want you to come back. I want you to have a better entry next year. Okay, once again, read the rules. And so that's it. Have fun with it. And questions?
So for the extracted honey?
Yes.
They're not tasting that or any, it's
Yeah, we
just-
taste.
Oh, you taste, so.
We taste all honey gets tasted.
So how do they, so all the things that you check, Mark,